Joining us right now, our friend Jay Christian Adams. He is at Election Law Center on Twitter, and he is an election lawyer, a best-selling author. So good to see you, my friend, and I'm so glad that you've joined us. You've been warning about voter integrity for 10 years plus now. You've been telling everyone something like this is going to happen at some point. Now with everything that you have seen, and I know that there's a lot of misinformation that's going on. I realize that and it can, I don't want to do the both sides thing because it's bad enough without there having to be any hyperbole on the right. I mean, the situation of the fraud is already bad enough. But do you think that it is enough? I mean, obviously we should audit ballots. Are we at the point though, where now there's enough there to call into question the legitimacy of an election?
Well, of course, the answer is yes, but it's because they didn't follow the rules of the game. Remember, under the Constitution, the legislature passes the rules of the game, not state court judges. I had to sue Virginia, Dana, because the Virginia legislature said you got to get ballots in before Election Day, and if they came late, they had to have a postmark. Well, the State Board of Elections said, who cares about the law? You don't need a postmark, and we'll still count it. So I had to sue Virginia. I beat Virginia. We got that law enjoined. But they're changing the rules of the game. That alone is enough to call into question legitimacy because they changed the rules. But I'll tell you, you said Michigan and nursing homes. We owe it to the people in the nursing homes to figure out what happened. But regarding more people voted than people living, look, that's same-day registration. That's not unusual. It's not people living, it's people registered. In same-day registration states like Wisconsin, Minnesota, and so forth, and Michigan, it's no big deal to have more people vote than were registered before Election Day. That happens every election.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So there's certain things that are complicated.
Yeah, no, there is. And I'm glad and thank you for that. I'm glad for that clarification because that makes sense if it's in the same day registration. And that always, of course, and I respect states determining, and it's completely their constitutional right to determine how they want to run their elections. When you have states like Nevada and you have machines that are verifying signatures and they are lowering the factory standard of performance on these machines, they have maybe a 40% success rate and even matching signatures. That is terrifying. And I don't know why anybody, regardless of party or political affiliation, would object to auditing those ballots that no one has seen up till this point.
Yeah, signature verification is something we have to look at very carefully because I will give you an example. In California, signature verification is being used to hurt conservatives, where they want to get ballot issues on, and a bunch of liberals in the election offices are saying, the signatures don't match. So this can go both ways. I think it's something we have to think about. Nevada's problem is universal vote by mail, where they were mailing ballots to everybody. And Dana, we looked at Nevada carefully before the election. I went out there. There's a great video at the Public Interest Legal Foundation website where we go knocking on doors, or in some cases, looking in the fence at vacant lots. We went to abandoned mines in Pahrump. We went to liquor stores in Las Vegas where people were registered to vote and nobody was there of that name. They claimed that's where they lived, but there's not even a building in these places.
Goodness, yeah, especially not an empty lot with a fence around it. Oh my gosh, that's the scary thing. I don't know what the good solution is to this problem other than, you know what, let's just have everybody vote on the same day and produce an ID.
Yeah, look, I just did an interview this morning with the BBC, and it was very ironic to be hassled by a BBC reporter about our views on vote by mail. And I said to her, no Western democracy does vote by mail. Nobody does, because you want to have a centralized location that's transparent where errors can be corrected. Let's not forget that. Like in Arizona, if you fill out the ballot and the machine doesn't accept it, you can fix the problem on the spot. Vote by mail doesn't lend itself to that. It rejects people. It disenfranchises people. You don't have both sides watching the process. You don't have people in everybody's kitchen to see how Granny is being coerced. So it's a real disaster system. We saw it coming. You can go back and look at what certain people have been saying was going to happen since March, and that's exactly what happened, sadly.
Yeah, not only have we had this push for mail-in ballots by Democrats, the advocacy of it, then you've had the litigation of it because they've taken us to court in a number of different states to try to establish this. So what, I mean, how long do you, because I know everybody goes back to the Bush v. Gore, and Gore was president-elect for what, just a little over a month. Are we looking at something similar happening here? I mean, I realize, and it could also be, and I'm fine with this too, if we audit everything and it does not have any impact on the election, I'm fine with that, because at this point I am more concerned about election integrity than anything else, because who's to say how this goes next election? So how is this going to turn out? How do you foresee it?
Well, I think you're exactly right that this is not just about 2020. This is about 2022. This is about 2024. And this is about the U.S. Constitution, because the Constitution says that legislatures set the rules. And if you want to live in a crazy state that sets really stupid rules, like some have, like Nevada, that's your prerogative. That's how our system works. But I'm afraid that we've turned it over to bureaucrats and courts and secretaries of state and lunatic governors, like in Pennsylvania, to suspend the rules that the legislature passed. So, Dana, I'm with you. We have to find out what happened, because it matters the next time.
Exactly. It matters the next time. And I wish that it could stop being presented as, well, this is just people who are trying to intervene on behalf of Trump. I'm focused on the Senate more than anything else at this particular point, especially those runoffs in Georgia. But as you said, 2022, 2024, it just seems that it gets more and more sophisticated. There's always going to be fraud in the system, but I think the importance is making sure that we can eliminate as much of it as possible. One last quick question for you. We're talking with J. Christian Adams, and you can find him on social media. You can find him at the PIL Foundation, too, is, by the way, the other Twitter handle. New York Times bestselling author. His book Injustice was fantastic. For those who are because I saw that you responded to some of the Lincoln Project stuff, because they were they were doxing lawyers. Everybody's laughing. They were doxing attorneys that were there on the ground, overseeing everything and making sure that everything was coming out, everything was being verified, et cetera, involved in that fight. You had responded to that and noted the danger of it as well. What is your thought of shaming of people who are saying essentially what we are? I don't know of any, even the most hardcore Trump supporters, that are saying, well, we're, no matter what, even if it proves to be a completely legitimate election, we're not going to accept it. I don't know anybody who's saying that. So what is your response to all those people who are trying to shame folks who simply are looking at what you just said, 2022, 2024 as well?
This came up in my BBC interview today, and this arrogant BBC reporter asked me that. And I said, look, you cannot look at this election and say things went well. Nobody objective can do that. You have boards being put up to prevent transparency. You have all sorts of other issues. Shouldn't we be asking the questions now so it's better the next time? Whatever happened to, like, the party of science? Let's get the facts. And suddenly they become the party of censorship as opposed to science. And I think that's a very dangerous thing when you don't want to ask simple questions, like, should we be letting observers watch the count, like the laws say? Should we be putting up foam board on windows? Should we be mailing ballots to addresses where nobody lives in the future? I mean, these are legitimate questions. And if you don't want to ask them, we're going to start to wonder what's going on here.
Yeah, that's a great point. That even just denying that this even happened is sketchy. J. Christian Adams, get his book Injustice.
All right, Dana.
Public Interest Legal Foundation as well. Thank you, my friend. Good to see you.
Thanks, Dana. You take care.
You too.